2 weeks ago, in a small town in North Carolina, the choir was meeting in their church to plan their Christmas caroling for the community. It was an ordinary planning meeting, and the Christmas caroling was an ordinary part of the choir's activities. Little did they know that this year their Christmas caroling would leave the ordinary and would become extraordinary. Today, we celebrate the vigil of Christmas. And the readings today tell of an extraordinary happening couched in the ordinary events of life. In the first reading, Isaiah speaks of the coming of a child who will be a great king. He will bring peace, justice, and right judgment to all the peoples. The people will see a great light and leave their life of darkness, their time of ordinary life, entering into an extraordinary time of joy where they will rejoice, dancing, and singing. One choir member would not accompany the group this year. Miss Vivian, in her 90s, thought that the cold, the walking, and the nighttime would be a little more than she wished to endure. The choir members expressed their disappointment at the absence of one of their longtime members, and they assured Miss Vivian that they would have pictures and stories to share with her. In the second reading, Paul writes to Titus about anticipating the appearance of our great God. Paul writes that the believer must patiently wait in the ordinary days of life, separating him or herself from the temptations of the world. The passage that we heard speaks to the extraordinary event, the coming of the Christ child, as well as the anticipation of Jesus' return on the last day. The choir finalized its caroling plans, adding one stop. They added Miss Vivian's home to their itinerary. They thought it would be a pleasant surprise for her, an opportunity for them to say thanks for her long-time membership. In the gospel today, Luke recounts the scene surrounding the birth of Christ. Caesar has decreed that there be a census. Each person in the Roman world is to be counted, and each is to go to his or her own hometown to register. As we know, Joseph and Mary traveled to Bethlehem. The roads were crowded. Many people were staying in unfamiliar places, and lodging was limited. Mary and Joseph stay in a stable. The situation was similar for many of the travelers of that day, and it was, well, the ordinary situation. In the small town, sometime after dark, 3 cars parked in front of Miss Vivian's house. The occupants emerged from the cars and gathered in her front yard. One person went up on the porch and knocked at the door, then, running back, rejoined the group. Inside, Miss Vivian was startled out of her napping by the knock. "Who's there?" she called. There was no answer. Outside, after no one came to the door, another of the choir went up on the porch, knocked, and ran back to the group. Inside, Miss Vivian called louder, "Who's there?" This time, When there was no answer, Miss Vivian peeked out of her blinds. Miss Vivian saw strange cars parked in front of the house and a group of people standing in the dark in the front yard. Miss Vivian called the police. Luke's account of Christmas tells us that there were a number of unusual things, extraordinary things happening around Bethlehem the night that Jesus was born. Shepherds in the hillsides encountered an angel of God. The angel informed them that an extraordinary thing had happened in Bethlehem. The long-awaited Messiah had been born. The angel calmed the frightened shepherds, telling them where they could find the Messiah. Now, small towns have small police departments and short distances within their town limits. 2 police cars were at Miss Vivian's within 90 seconds. Every siren, horn, and light on the vehicles was fully engaged. The noise was deafening, and the lights were blinding. The choir members huddled together trying to understand what was happening. When the officers emerged from their cars, they quickly recognized the choir members. The officers were members of the same church. One officer calmed the choir while another went up on Miss Vivian's porch. And with some coaxing and assurance, the officer managed to get her to come out and to see that there was nothing to fear. We have all gathered here to celebrate the extraordinary. In the last few weeks or months, our ordinary has included searching for just the right gift, planning the perfect family gathering, getting together with coworkers and friends, sending cards and remembrances to those who we love and cherish. But all of this ordinary activity points to an extraordinary event, the birth of our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. And it's important to consider that each year, because of this extraordinary event, we have the opportunity to create great memories and stories that live with our families for generations. The choir sang for Miss Vivian, accompanied by police lights and spotlights to banish the dark and the confusion. Even the neighbors came out on their lawns to see what was happening. The incident, I'm sure, will be one of the church's lasting stories to be told with love and laughter. As we enjoy the Christmas celebration, all the hustle and bustle, the noise and the light, the presents and the meals, we should pause often to recall that it was because of an ordinary event, the birth of a child. The extraordinary part of it is who that child is. Just like the shepherds that Christmas night, Miss Vivian, the choir, the police, and the neighbors were all drawn together in a moment that went from ordinary to extraordinary. Each of us here this evening is drawn in some way to the Christmas event, drawn to an infant wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. The ordinary has become extraordinary. God has become one of us. He is called Jesus. Merry Christmas.